All right. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. I'm Brian. Welcome to another session of Revit Radio. This is Melissa. I do this here, but then I realized when you play back the recordings that this saves, it doesn't actually show the people. So I'm pointing, and people who are watching this later don't ever get to see that. So this is Melissa. We're here to let you guys ask us crazy questions about Revit, and we'll answer them. Feel free to put those in the question and answer pod. I see a couple new names in here. It's easier for us to keep track of it as a team. Otherwise, feel free to heckle us and give us everything in the webinar chat if you wanted to. As we said, how come when I start a meeting, literally the vacuum just started? I don't have a time to go at 1 o'clock. It just, oh man, hold on, gotta close the door. It's like, man, battery recharge right at the time I started the meeting. Cool.
Sounds about right.
So if you guys have any questions, we'll jump into that. Couple things I always like to start off when we get going is one, we are at the time of year, which means 2026 is going to be coming out, which we talked about a little bit before the recording started. But so just to be aware, 1st of April is usually when Autodesk brings out the 2026 products. It's still technically under an NDA. We're not allowed to talk about it, but you do realize that if you go to the Autodesk roadmap and then you click on whatever discipline you want to click on, when you start coming down here and you will see, come on, who was it? The other one I found?
There you go.
I found a different page earlier. I'm going to pull this other page down too. You do see that if you come into some of these things inside of here, if it says it's in the private beta, that means if you are a beta member, you are an NDA, so you can't technically talk about it. But most oftentimes, historically with Autodesk, if it's in the beta, that means it's probably going to be coming out in the next release, possibly. So if you are curious about what might be coming along in 26, I do say go look at the Revit roadmap. And if it says in preview, that usually means it's in the preview file. Not guaranteed you're going to get that object, but there's a good chance you might see that in the next release. So if you're curious, you want to get a little update of what possibly could be coming out, go look at the Revit roadmap and see what's going on there. Okay. So hopefully we'll get to see it. I will say to all of my colleagues out there that knowing what I've seen in the beta that's in there and what's more than likely going to be out there, I'm going to be pushing hard for clients to upgrade a lot of their projects. So just do be aware. The other thing I always like to process and say is when a new version comes out, technically, that means an old version is no longer legally usable, right? So our contracts say, current version plus 3. So if 26 is out, that means you can do 25, 24, 23. Means you will not be able to theoretically get 22 anymore. And when that does happen, it's the fact that if you're on projects, Autodesk doesn't usually make you do it. But when you go to the object and you start looking at downloads, the 22 download will disappear. So when Revit comes out, and we've got the new Revit out in 2026, that 2022 download will disappear from their downloadable services. So I'm not saying you might not have that download on your server. Intent to put it on your server if you want to keep a 22 installed. But also I understand that you have that going on, etc. So just to be aware that technically it's not there. And for those of you still stuck in the dark ages on some of those old products, it's now your opportunity to tell management you need to upgrade those projects because it won't be legal anymore to be on 22. So just throwing that out there. I'll leave that up to you guys, but understand that you do have that going on. So as usual, I like to start with something here, and I've realized that a lot lately I've been noticing, and maybe it's because I've been helping clients in schedules a lot more often, but I have been noticing a couple things, and they're very simple things that I always like to point out to people. I guess it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to go to the view list schedule that I have down here. When you start going into a schedule, there's a couple things that always drive me crazy. If I zoom up and down on the schedule, I complained for years that Autodesk didn't have a freeze header button. They've added it like 3 or 4 versions ago, and it's in your ribbon, and it is schedule dependent, but you could choose freeze header to keep the headers up there. It's one thing that I always just sit there and start going. It's like, oh my goodness, what the heck is going on? I see people scrolling and then scrolling back up. Yeah, that's the view name. And scrolling back. Yeah, that's the title on sheet. It's like, I don't know. I think it was like Revit 21. They gave us this freeze header button. Could have been 22, but it's been a while since we've had the freeze header button. And I don't see most people using that. The other thing that you see is I have alternating shaded rows. We got this back in Revit 23, I think it was. And it was just visible on the screen. And in the old version, there was literally just a button up here that said shade rows. But in 24, I believe it was, might have been 23. I get confused on years. They switched that and actually put that into the formatting, or excuse me, the appearance tab. So if you're a person who uses templates, which I highly recommend you should use templates on your schedules, you can choose to go in and say, cool, I want to stripe the rows. And what's my first row stripe color? What's my second row stripe color? And you can leave the first one white, and you can make the second one a gray, a pink, a purple. I don't care, whatever it is you're looking to do. I get a lot of people say that's great, but I don't want it to print that way, but it would be nice to visualize that in Revit. That is what this checkbox here is for. If you say show striped rows on sheets, it means it will print that shading. If that's unticked, it will not print that shading for you. So just kind of one of those things for me to understand you have that, excuse me, that capability to go through and set and look at those schedules. Now, the other thing I have on there too is I am in a new project that I started. This new project came from my template. My template is not an RVT project. I know a lot of my clients, they create RVTs. They can pre-set up their work sets. They can do some other different scenarios. For me, I keep them as RTEs. But you'll notice that in my schedule, I actually have the work set category on a lot of these schedules inside of here. But if I were to go edit the schedule and go into it, when I go to the Fields tab, you're going to see it says work set here, but I can't grab work set. And oftentimes, if you say, I think it was in Revit 24, if you said, okay, like, I got to delete that because that's not a valid field. Or maybe you manipulate it or something. But in order to get the work set category in my schedules in my template, I actually had to create a blank project from my template, make it a work shared project so work sets were enabled, add that to the schedule, and then copy and paste that schedule back into my template. So for those of you who might not be using an RVT for your template, but you actually are using the Revit RTE template files, that is how you can get those added in. You guys use an RVT or an RTE for your template, Melissa?
We use a template file.
Yeah. So that's just one of those things. It can be there. I always forget this because I go to clients' projects. Oh, I should add that to your template. I'm like, oh crap. So I got to start a blank project, add that in, bring it across, etc. But so that is how you can get this going. Making sure, yes. Cool. All righty. So I see a couple of questions, but it does look like they're in the chat pod, not the Q&A pod. But since there's only two, I think we can handle them for now.
And it seemed like they were trying to also ask everybody else, not just you.
Oh, that's true. Because I don't use Clarity, so.
I would also be unhelpful with Clarity.
A lot of my clients use it, so let's hit that Clarity question.
So, oh gosh, sorry. There goes my voice, because of course. Catlin says, I've been having issues with Revit 25. When closing, it will pop up a Revit crash warning dialog. It seems for me Clarity was the culprit and was wondering if anyone else had the same issue. Oh, I haven't had that in 25, but it used to be all the time in 22.
Yeah, I haven't had any clients tell me that they're having that issue, but you are in Revit 25. So and I got to remember where this is now. In Revit 25, they did give us the capability to play with the add-ins manager. Is it here? I think it's here. Nope, that's the macro. Yeah, so in Revit 25, within Revit, you have this add-in manager. They also gave us an add-in manager for just outside of Revit, and we'll talk about that in a second. But you can go into the add-in manager and you can actually say, cool, I want to disable all my add-ins, or you can go down and more selectively turn off which add-in manager you want to be using inside of here as well. I do love the fact on this too, because it does even tell you who the vendor is. Like, hey, some of these add-ins technically are Autodesk add-ins. So it's coming in here saying, cool, I've got this Autodesk add-in. It's from Autodesk. Development is also Autodesk. I don't know, actually, that's from John. That's from John Pearson. I don't know why he's called his vendor the development, but so this is kind of one of those things that it does give you the users as well. And not only does it do that, it will start telling you if there's other like sub add-ins that happen with this. So like when I do the Revolution design tools, it's saying, hey, cool, here's all those other tools that are opening. And it also even breaks it down to how long is it making your opening process go for Revit. So like if you are using, like you're saying, hey, I've got clarity. If you've got clarity, you can try unticking clarity, go through those same steps you did. Now, this is not going to turn it off for the current version of Revit you're in. You would have to close out of Revit and reopen this. You can go into your Windows, obviously, search I went into, and I'm going into Revit Addins Manager. You can go turn this off prior to opening Revit as well. So you do have this inside of here when you go through and you go through and start setting this up and adding what's going on inside of there. So there's the individual version, or there is the version that you can gain access to on the extension tabs under the extension panel. Under the manage tab, you've got the little add-ins manager. I also believe that there's been discussion because the add-ins manager has the enable disable macros here. I would not surprise me if we're going to see the macros button go away when you start getting inside of there as well. So just FYI.
Okay.
There are other ones out there too. I know DI Roots has one. I know way back when Boost Your BIM created one for Stantec, and they made that one available and free. Technically, what's happening behind the scenes on those two is it's actually going into Revit, and you'll see that I've got my shortcuts over here. And all it's doing is going into that version of Revit and renaming the file. So if you don't want to use this, or you're in an older version of Revit, you absolutely can come in here and start. The heck is that? I do not need my Internet Explorer tab up there. You can start coming in here and literally just renaming this. This is very cool. I wanted to turn this one off. I always just rename them. I always just go to the very end and add a .txt to the end. Oops, that is not the function key. That was the Windows key. Let me open that back up.
Gremlin.
I hit the Windows key, not the function key, to go to the end.
Simply.
F2, I always just go to the end and then just do a .txt. And then if you want to turn it back on, it's literally just going back and removing the .txt and leaving the .addin. So that's literally how you can do it if you don't have it. The only thing I will say is add-ins can be in different locations.
Yeah,
So you
that's
start looking inside of here. Some of these are under the Program Data Autodesk Revit Add-ins folder. I have more than one shortcut on my desktop because I never remember where they are. Oh, that's funny. I created one to the old folder and I renamed it old. Where is the other one? There's also then some under the App Data Roaming Autodesk Revit Add-ins. So there's two folders there. These ones are going to be more like the PyRevit and the Inkscape are going to get installed here. And there's actually a third location that's for all Autodesk, and it could possibly be under App Data Local Autodesk Inc. These can also be add-ins that might go to more than one product.
yeah, I think you're
So,
supposed to say, but wait, there's more.
but wait, there's more. So those two are common. This actually third location I learned within like the last 6 months. I was doing a support call with Autodesk saying, oh, we got to go disable the third place. And I'm like, third place? What? And so this would be one that is common to every Autodesk application, not just Revit specific. So like I have one called HatchKit that I run. HatchKit gets installed here because it can work for AutoCAD or Revit or Civil 3D or any of those. So you do have that option as well. So just understand that those can be there. So I personally, somebody I noticed Caitlin just put in here, they use the DI add-ins manager. The DI Roots add-ins manager has never worked for me. It will only show like a few of them. I mean, it'll show all of my add-ins, but only like all of them will be grayed out in like a read-only scenario. And I can't disable or enable any of them within Revit, Revit closed, whatever. So the DI Roots one has never worked for me. Sorry, it's D Roots, they call it. I still say DI Roots. That's what I thought it was. But the D Roots one, yeah, it's never really gets anything for me. Somebody says you run an admin. Yeah, I am an admin, so I hate having to right click on programs and say run as admin. I don't know. For me, 90% of the time, I just go rename the damn files. And I have a shortcut to this one, which you can actually see that literally, if I want to get rid of all of them, I will go in and just rename the whole folder old. Like if I wanted to get rid of the Revit add-ins, I'm like, I want to just turn them all off. I just renumber the 2025 old or something like that. Next time I start out the program, Revit will re-add all of those in for me. So I just rename the whole folder if I want to disable all of them. So it doesn't matter too much, but yeah, that's my scenario. So anything come up on that? Oh yeah, disable the add-ins manager. Yeah. So Michael did bring up the fact that that add-ins manager that comes up that can be turned off via the INI file. I forget what that INI setting is, but I believe in the Revit INI file, you can disable that so your users can't go in and start turning off add-ins you don't want them turning off. As Michael points out, Guardian, which keeps them from doing things.
Which is why they want to turn it off.
Okay, so
Model in place everything.
bottom in place. Oh, you laugh. Oh my God. I got
Hi.
existing models from an airport project, and I think they created things from a laser scan. And literally there's one for all like the X-ray equipment baggage handling and all the little baggage handling things, and every 90% of it's in place families. And then it's hilarious because like even like the supports for the things, they modeled them to the point cloud. So they're off by like half a degree. They use structural columns, but every structural column in there then has a warning of slightly off axis because not a single damn thing is plumb. It was like, oh, this is what you get when you just pay somebody to model from a laser scan.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I had a school and it was like a light fixture of all things, and they modeled it in place and then copied it a bazillion times,
And you're
and
like,
then it
oh,
had a warning, so everything slowed to it. And it was just like, really?
yeah. I opened up this tiny little file. It's like in the kilobytes, like not even 1,000 kilobytes. It's like in the hundreds of kilobytes, a tiny file. And I open it up and there are like 685 warnings. And I'm like, oh my God. A tiny file should not have that many warnings.
Should not.
Should not. Cool. I think there was another question. Now we got to scroll up in the chat because everybody's been chatting.
Way to be more social, everybody. So Rick was saying if you ask the assistants for older versions, you can get older downloads.
Yes, you do have to get approval. Autodesk will give you downloads if you go ask them for it, etc. I don't know. For me, it's always unless I have a project I really don't want to upgrade. I know back in the old network licensing day, I used to be able to go to Autodesk and say, "Cool, can you give me an exception for this? We have projects on that." It was never that big of a deal, but it just you have to do it when the new release comes out to update your license manager, and then when your contract expired, it was just twice
Yeah.
a year I had to do it for half of my clients. It was just such a pain in the ass. I'm like, just upgrade your projects.
Yeah, we did it once at my old firm because they were worried about keeping old versions just to sequentially upgrade things if something came back. And it took a while because it was like they needed it in writing. So we had to literally mail them a thing saying,
Yes.
this is why we would like access to these. And then it took them forever to get back to us. And then I don't think anybody actually used it after that. So I don't think that's a hoop that they continued jumping through. But we had been audited and they found nothing, but that's why we jumped through said hoop because we didn't want that to happen again and to have them get mad at us for having one computer that still had like 18 on it or something.
Yeah, I had a client who's been on named user seats for like 3 years get audited. And I'm like, why? You're literally on named user seats. I thought that was going to kind of get away of the Autodesk audits, but they're
Right.
like, sure, audit us. Here you go. Here's the report. Everything's fine. Named users. There you go. Cool. Thanks for
Yeah.
killing the day of my IT time.
I'm pretty sure they spent more money paying people to audit us than
Yeah,
they would have gotten if we had been doing anything, but whatever.
cool. And who did I
Good
see as a
times.
question?
Yeah, I guess while we're waiting, Michael says it's been a while since you mentioned your desktop organization tool, so seems like it's a fences
My
question.
fences.
Woo,
My fences
fences.
program. It's funny because I switched computers recently and I had fences on my old computer, and every time I turn on, I'm like, you need to register fences. Like, but I just can't get rid of it. I've got to have my organized. So Michael saw the desktop and said, I love fences. There's two things I love about fences. One, the organization, which is great, but I also love this too. So if you're a total nah person who has 5 million things on their desktop and you ever present with people, doesn't look professional in my opinion to have 500 things on your desktop. So Fences does have this one little thing. So it's programmed from Scooter software. It's called Fences, and you can actually go in and turn things on and off to be viewed on there. So like if I were to grab this fence, I can right click and go to the View tab and make sure it's going to be excluded from the group with a quick hide. So that way, if I just double click, all of the things I don't want to see on my desktop get hidden. So when I'm doing a presentation, usually my stuff is Autodesk related. I can just double click my desktop and oh, look how pretty and clean that is. I also like the fact that if I go to move this, right, I can come in here, move it. It moves all of them together as a group. It does this beautiful snapping together. The height snap to the height of a freaking the icons. It's got all these fun tools that yeah, this is exactly what I'm looking for when I go through and set this up. So
I totally bought it myself because I'm slightly anal retentive about my desktop. I
yes.
actually have mine all auto hide, so I have four tabs at the bottom that when you hover over it pops up.
Oh yeah,
Otherwise,
you can also auto hide in the properties of the fences, the roll up fence. So if it just you just do this,
yep, so
this
I just
just
have those along the bottom of my screen and that's all you see.
so you just see them down here and then they
And
pop.
then yeah, if you go over it pops up.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
I need them to be there because I access
overly
them too
anal retentive.
often. I don't know. I'm a little crazy. You can even also set it up like if you create a new fence, um, you can also then have that fence be the default fence. So if anything gets downloaded to your desktop, it'll just go into that fence. So you can have things
Yes.
automatically fall into the correct fence. So it's not just rando on your desktop or wherever it goes, which is really nice because for me, half the time I unplug from my second monitor and plug it back in, and it sees my second monitor as primary. So I download something like, where the hell is it? It's up in the upper left corner of my other monitor over here. And I'm like, where did that go? I just created a new shortcut or whatever. It's like, oh my God. So yeah, that is also something cool. So yeah, I don't know. When I originally bought it, it was like an $18 program, but I still think it's something like 25.
Yeah,
It's
it's not very expensive.
not very expensive at all.
For my mental health, it was totally worth it.
Yes.
And Greg,
Oh,
I don't know, we need to get you fences for your junk drawer, apparently.
well, I had an IT guy way back when who found this and installed it. And it was free back then. It was way back when. And it was like, oh my God, I had the old free version that was like Fences version 0. And I kept that for years. And finally, I'm like, why am I not just paying the damn $15 for this and just get the licensed version and be done with it? Okay. And I saw Augustina had a question in the chat pod, so we can hit that one too.
Let's see, scrolling. So Augustina is having issues with Revit 25 crashing when installing PyRevit. So she just had a call with a client reporting multiple crashes since they downloaded PyRevit. And that only 25 only came out, but just before last Revit Radio.
Yeah, I think it came out like literally the day before, or like that week of the last Revit Radius has been out a month.
Mhm.
One thing I will notice that I've had several clients noticing is not even just the installation of PyRevit, but Revit in general. For some reason, a lot of the DLLs that are coming with Revit are being seen with a lot of virus programs as virus software.
Oh, that's
So
helpful.
I have one client, they installed it across the whole company. They forgot to disable it, and then everybody goes in, oh, I can't get the Format add-in DLL. I can't find this, and he tracked it down. A couple of them have tracked it down to be it's the virus software seeing some of the DLLs as a virus and blocking those from getting installed. So certain things aren't getting installed. So I would check that with PyRevit to make sure PyRevit actually isn't doing it. So hopefully IT can turn off your virus software. It's something I always recommend people to do. It's like before I install anything, I go turn off my virus software because yeah, you're downloading DLLs and you're clicking on executables and
Mhm.
all these other things. And some virus programs are like, yep, nope, don't like that. Sorry, no, not going to let you do it. So that's the only thing I heard. I haven't heard of anybody having issues with it, but I would verify that. And like I said, I have a client who like they're even going back and installing like new computers, installing 23 versions of AutoCAD or Revit, which they've had on computers before, and it's like, oh no, it's not letting me do this. So that's my big thing is go check that. And one of them also didn't even allow the Revit to create folders. Like half of the folders Revit needed for like temporary writing purposes. It wasn't even creating those folders. It's like, oh my goodness.
That's helpful.
So that's just the thing I can say is that that's what I would start looking into in there is make sure your virus isn't kicking you out of there.
Yeah, needs to calm down.
Yeah. Former firms managed blocked the no, not all the DLLs, but the installer routine for AutoCAD. Oh, if you're really old, Michael, the AutoCAD dot doc LSP, the list file for that would be seen as a virus. And if you didn't have the setting correctly, every time you opened up a DWG, it would create if you double clicked it, it would create that LSP in the folder you created the DWG in, and then virus softwares would lock that whole folder down. It was really, really fun in the old AutoCAD days. You had to realize, oh, it's the AutoCAD.doc.lsp file that's it's seeing as a virus. And if you double click an AutoCAD file, it puts that LSP in every single folder if you didn't have that setting turned off. And your whole entire folder would be locked down and you couldn't even get into it. So it was really, really fun back in the old days. But yeah, that's all I can say with PyRevit. I installed 25, I don't know, like a week ago, week or two ago, and I haven't had any issues. And I know a lot of my clients jumped on it the day it came out, and I haven't heard anything from them. So I got nothing on that.
Yeah, I only got to work in 25 for like 3 days. Now I'm back in 22 for a minute.
And Lappings have a whole bunch of clients now debating upgrading their projects to 25. And I'm like, really? 26 is going to be out in a month. I'm just saying. I mean, your add-in utilities aren't going to be updated in a month, but I'm just saying, let's wait 11 months for the software to be out, but before we upgrade the projects. Okay, well, that said, there are no more questions, so we are buying for a little bit of time here. But I did open up 25 because I do want to talk about, especially since we're talking about people haven't upgraded. One of the things that 25 came out with, and since it was the first version, I am assuming we will probably see expansions to this in 26, hopefully, when we get into there. But when you in 25, one of the big things that they gave us were called sheet collections. So if I right click on the sheets where we get new sheet, we also got sheet collections. Or if I go up to the view tab and I go to where the heck is it up here? I forget where it is. It's somewhere up here. All right, I thought it was up in the view tab. Da, 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 da.
Yeah, I can't even tell you.
Yeah, I don't know. I always do down here. It's somewhere in the ribbon, but if I come up here, there are what are called sheet collections. So Revit 25 came out with this, and this will actually allow us to have two sheets of the same name. I have a lot of clients who do a building, and in that building, they might have a whole bunch of small little projects. Or on a campus, they might have several different projects, and they want to model it all in one model. Regardless, what the nice part about this is in this collection, you can start giving it, cool, I want to call this package one, right? Going to be package one. Maybe in this particular project, that's not what I wanted. Maybe in this particular project, you're going to have multiple packages that need to go out, right? So I really wish it would just put me in the rename dialog box when I create it. But I
Revit
got package
ideas.
one, package two, right? What's cool about this is once you create those sheets and you start coming down here, or those packages, excuse me, you can start grabbing sheets and be like, cool, this sheet here wants to be part of that package. So if you go into the properties, you're gonna see up here, we've got the sheet collection. So I'm like, cool, this A101 plan sheet literally needs to be part of the collection that's going to be package one. Now I can go create a new sheet and I can come up here and be like, sweet, use that title block. That looks great. Here we go. I want to go call this sheet A101 as well. And when I do that, notice Revit didn't yell at me. That sheet name's already in use because this A101 here is under package one. This new A101 I created is not under package one. It's still floating. So you can have a floating version here, or I can come up here and be like, cool, no, 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 no. This one wants to be under package two. So it's giving us that capability to go through and now have duplicate sheet names as long as they're assigned to a package or not a package, different set sheet collections. We can go through and start setting that up. So it's kind of one of those big things, and I've got a lot of my clients who do exactly that. I've got one client like, hey, we've got this giant car dealership, and we're always doing these little TI projects for them. And I'm doing them and linking the building in and doing this whole demo phasing so I can have sheet A101 and all those different packages. I'm like, here you go. Now you can use sheet collections for that. So it's kind of a big thing to be able to have. Go through and set these up, and now you'll be able to, oh, this is cool. We can start having multiple sheets in multiple named sheets in those different collections. I think this was big to me. I have a lot of clients who do a lot of TI work. They've got an
Yeah.
entire 10-story building, and they're constantly doing different little TI work all over it. It's like, yeah, this is pretty good.
Yeah, we've definitely been down the like using invisible symbols tricks and like
Yes.
sometimes it's a dash, sometimes it's a period, sometimes it's like just
We'll do
wrong.
an underscore for these A101 sheets and a dash for all these A sheets.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, if they belong to both packages, possibly like your detail sheet, you don't even have to duplicate them and put them in each package. You literally can leave them outside of the package. So I can leave the detail sheets outside of that package and then just print those when I'm printing the other sets.
Just make sure that you add the package plus the extra sheets to a plot
Yes. And then
setup
make sure you're going to the package.
as
And that
well.
is the other thing too, is you do go into the print and you are going to go look for selected views and sheets. You can see, I thought there was a up here. Yeah, you can just start to choose which package you're looking or which collection you're looking for, right? So if you're like, cool, I am only looking for the sheets in package one, then I can go through and untick that, and now I'm just seeing my sheet collection one or my sheet collection two. I want to print those. So like Melissa said, if I need to go print multiples, then I can say, cool, I need to grab these ones in here or not. I personally, for the few projects I've been on, created one called bulk packages or whatever. So I could have those rando sheets that might be presentation sheets or whatever, not be outside of it, and made sense. Hey, this is for package one and two. That's what I've done. I've
Like
even
shared
had clients.
package or something.
What was that?
So it's like a shared package.
Yeah, shared package. Yeah, I like to share my package.
Yeah, we're getting back to the consume
Consuming packages.
share and consume packages in your project.
In this case, it's a collection of packages. The other thing that I've also seen people starting to use this for is like presentation drawings. So that way their presentations are all the way in there and set up inside of there.
That's
And
what we're
then,
excited about too.
yeah. And then the other
Yeah,
thing
a lot of
too
people.
is in that browser organization, excuse me, sheets. I believe one of the options you can now have is sheet collection. So you can even set your browser organization up to be looking at this sheet collection or filter it out by those sheet collections. So if you want to filter it by sheet collection, you can come in and be like, cool, I want to go in and not see package one, right? Or I only want to see package one, right? And now I'm like, cool, here's only those sheets that are part of that collection. So yeah, it was kind of a big thing. I haven't had too many clients take advantage of it, but the ones who have upgraded to 25 pretty quickly were like, yeah, that's why we're doing it. This is going to
Yeah,
save us a tremendous amount of work.
I feel like it's kind of a big deal for a lot of tenant improvement architects for sure.
Well, and even I think I will be going back and manipulating my template when I bring it to 25 and start doing like presentation package,
Yeah.
right? Or presentation collection. Because I hate scrolling through and seeing all those presentation ones. Hey, they're there. They're where they are. And again, now I can use that value to go through and set it up. One downside, I believe, currently, and I believe this is a downside currently, is if you go to a view schedule, or excuse me, a sheet index. Where is my sheet index, sheet list? I don't believe you can actually get the sheet collection. I could be wrong on this. No, you can. So you can schedule
Okay,
the
good.
sheet.
I was like, that seems stupid, but I'm not gonna I'm not gonna say you're not right, but it does seem a bit silly. So that's good it's there.
Yeah, so it is there. I wasn't sure because I originally when it came out, I don't think that was out in 25.0. I think that came out later because I know originally I'm like, well, that's stupid if we can't schedule the collection. So yeah, so it looks like it's there now. Or
And
maybe I'm just smoking crack. I have no idea.
I'm trying to think because Aaron had, I think you can actually save the settings out or use transfer project standards to get your collection stuff. That was something you could bring over.
No, that is not transfer.
That is not.
That is not. That's right there. I don't have another file open. There we go. Can be a sheet. No projects. Put in. Sure.
Fine.
And now we'll go to manage transfer project standards, and from project one, we'll get sheet collections.
Yes, yes, you can bring over sheet collections. And I think he may have been using Dynamo or something to use rules in order to put stuff in, but
Yep.
I'll have to ask him.
But so there you go. That way your sub-consultants can transfer all of those as well.
Yeah. And then also if you're upgrading plans, you can pull or projects, not plans.
Yeah, and of course, so one thing I also want to point out that I saw a client doing the other day that I didn't think this bug still existed, but this did happen for a client the other day. They were floating their project browser and their properties off onto another screen. I personally keep mine docked within Revit, because I unplug my laptop too often and hook up with the different monitors or projectors. I don't want to lose them. But the other reason why I do is way back when in Revit, there used to be a thing that if you selected multiple things in the project browser, and then you went over to change this in the properties, if they were floating and they were not within Revit, you would actually only be changing the properties of the top one you selected. So I did run into this with a client the other day in Revit 24. So I did not notice that was there, but I did see that come in with a client in 24 where they're like, oh, I went to go change the grouping on this or whatever. And they did that, but it didn't change all of them. It literally only changed the first one. We docked them onto the screen. It worked fine. So that did come up this last week with me on a client as well. So I thought that bug had been fixed, but apparently it was not in his version of 24.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to check because I definitely pull my stuff onto my other screen because I want all the real estate.
I bounce around too much, man. My Revit never leaves here. I never pull
Uh, I guess on my
you
laptop I don't
yeah.
usually,
It's all
but
I
on my
have is my
desktop
laptop.
it's
So
definitely over there.
cool. So it looks like we had a couple questions and even one in the chat pop up.
Yeah. So I was kind of laughing at Mark's comment about herding cats and sheet collections. I can totally understand adding yet another level of complexity to sheets could be an issue. Hopefully, if everything's in a template, people aren't reinventing the wheel every time.
Yeah, the one thing I wish
Say
is
that
like
knowing they will, but
when I click new sheet, the one thing that is cool is if you right click on new sheet under that package, or excuse me, under that collection, it
okay.
will put it there. So rather than right clicking on sheets under sheets, if you right click on sheets under the collection, it will put, of course, now I got to go change my browser organization. It will go through and add it to that collection for you already. Sheets, edit, get rid of this, none. So that is one nice thing as well, is when you're doing it, you can get those inside of there. So, so hopefully explain that as well when you're talking about collections.
Hopefully they won't be that scary, Mark. Or most users won't even notice. You won't even have to deal with it. All right, so we have two actual questions in the question, but I do feel like my team is creative. Yeah, yeah. I've met some creative people.
Yes, if no collection is created, then it does basically act like everything else. And even again, even if you have collections in there, it still acts the same. If you have those in there and somebody didn't know and they're like, oh, right click new sheet, it's still going to drop down under here. It's just if they happen to right click new sheet on the collection is where they could get confused.
Yeah. And as Mark is saying, they probably will. There will be confusion. Um, oh, Rick in the chat did have a thing about upgrading from 24 to 25 in ACC. And I'm not sure. Have you done a cloud upgrade?
Oh, I do them all the time.
On there, yeah.
I've
But for anybody that hasn't, they have the checking tool. So you can basically run like a test upgrade that doesn't do anything to your project, but it will come back with a report and gives you any warnings um, and issues that you might find. So if you run that and there's no problems,
Yeah, so there is, yeah, and I was trying to remember which project that I just did on this project. I know this project. Let me pull this down. I'm going to go into this project. So once you run a Revit test upgrade, when you get inside of there, it will automatically under the files area create a new folder called Revit Upgrade Report. That Revit Upgrade Report will then come in. I always personally note how long that upgrade took because
oh,
it's comparative. So I put a little description on here. I've had these upgrade reports take 4 hours, and then when I actually upgraded the project took roughly 4 hours to upgrade.
mm,
So it's kind of a match thing. So after I run it, you get an email saying whoever the admin is who runs it gets an email saying you started this, and when it's completed, it says you completed it. I look at the 2 times and throw in a rough time of what it was. But what it is actually gets inside of there. And if I go download this, I hate the fact that I literally have to download this just to open it up in my browser to see it. Really seems stupid to me, but when you do this and you go through here, the biggest thing that you're going to actually see is it's going to report back basically all the warnings you have within your Revit project. So if you have 600 warnings in your project, it is going to give you those 600 warnings inside of there. Let me go back to that folder.
but
And
and it's been a while since I've looked at one. Doesn't it break it up into like the things that
each
will make
model
it stop versus things that are just
Yeah, and then it does. So you go into there and come in here. It'll break it to every model that got upgraded. When you go into the model and you look at, it'll show you the warnings. these are warnings inside of there. It's like, okay, cool. It's got something possibly. Again, this was wrong and warnings within that file to start with, right? Mostly when you start getting some of these, and I think this one actually tested just fine, but it might actually tell you, hey, I've got these 130 warnings, right? The taps aren't attached to ducts. The same thing you see on this, 90% of the time when I get a project that upgrades and things get deleted, it's due to improper modeling, right? Or poor modeling. It's a warning in Revit saying, hey, you model the duct backwards. Hey, you don't have these taps attached to a duct anyway. Those are the things I see happen. Occasionally I'll get up here and be like, oh, yeah, it's deleting a door. And you go back to the current project, like, there's nothing wrong with this door. So yes, it will tell you this. And again, here it is telling me this element's got to be deleted. This tap is getting deleted. This element is getting detached from its host, as is this one, right? I've never had architecturally or structurally anything go wrong. I've had one structural file where a column got deleted. We saw it in the warning. We saw what the ID was. We said, cool, once we upgrade, we'll copy a new column in. It's not a big deal. 90% of the time, though, when you look at this, you're going to see all of these things. It's usually in the mechanical stuff. It's usually ductwork. Occasionally, it'll be in pipe models too as well. But I've almost never seen anything on structure or architecture really go that bad. So run the test upgrade report. Whoever runs it, have them, like I said, keep track of that time. But no, I've not seen any significant issues of upgrading from 24 to 25. I've done quite a few projects that way as well. The only time I can say I've ever had any issues was actually upgrading Revit 2009 from 2008. That one had some pretty significance. And I think it was also 2017 where they made the text change. But even for me, that one wasn't even that big of a deal. So
We actually, Aaron, just because he has so much spare time, decided to upgrade the I think he had a copy of 8.1. And so he went and got the sample file from 8.1 and upgraded it to 2025. And it was super quick, and things that he didn't even think existed in 8.1 still seem to look okay in 25. So
I have a project that was Revit version 3 or 4. It was before we had the edit family. Um,
yeah.
so when you're in Revit, you grab a family, you get the capability to say, cool, I want to hit edit family. That did not exist. You also didn't have the capability to go, there was no in the insert tab. The only way you could bring a family was hit load. If you were editing a family, there was no load into project. So if you were editing a family, you had to open the family, save it, go into your project, reinsert that family.
Mm.
I have a project so old that if you bring that up, it will still do that for you. None of the families give you this edit family. It's just blank. And you're like, was this modeled in place? What the hell's going on? Because you do not get that. Cool part is you can't even save those out. But if you did have those original blocks and you loaded those original blocks into a project, and you grabbed it in a brand new project, it still won't give you the edit family. Pretty fun.
Man, I'm just assuming somebody somewhere's like, ooh, I can use that workaround to do my super secret family that nobody can steal.
Yeah. It's like you can steal them. Yeah, but you can't. So Jason had a follow-up with the cloud upgrades on ACC. Are there any concerns with updating, say, from 2020 to 2025 directly? I've done multiple version skips and it does just fine. When you are in a project, when you are in a project and you are actually in a project, you have to go into the settings and you get this Revit cloud model upgrade. If it's an old like 2020 projects, when you run the test, it'll say 222, 23, 24, whatever. It will list all the versions. You can just click, hey, test that upgrade to 25. Right. So it's saying here, I can go from 2024 to 2025. If this had been an older version, it would show the different versions down here, 24 to 23, or 20 to 23, 20 to 22, etc. And you could hit the test upgrade on any of those.
I know, and I had to take a moment to take a little bit of credit for that test button because I was working on a giant project and I was literally testing the cloud upgrade with the team in China. So we were like emailing back and forth. It was like the middle of the night for me, and testing that all out. So when it didn't work right the first time, I was like, is there a way we can, test it before we completely kill all our models?
Fill all our
They were
models.
like, oh, that's an interesting idea. I'm like, no, it's not. Everybody's gonna want it.
Everybody's gonna want this.
But then they made it happen. So I feel like people like it.
I wish I could also build in some sort of naming thing because the only thing I do after that is like this project is going to get upgraded in about a month. I personally, like most people out there, oops, have the capability in here to we put the version number after it. I
Uh-huh.
wish I could have it automatically go rename all of these files. I wish I could say test upgrade and anything that has underscore A24 or underscore question mark 24, rename that to yeah, but so I do after I run that upgrade, after that has ran for an hour, I go through and then I come back and say, cool, let me come back here, rename. I open every single, you don't have to open it, I just rename every file on the cloud. And then when people go to Revit 25, they will see the new name. You don't have to rename it through Revit, you can rename it on the cloud. So that's the only other thing for me too, that I always like the version sitting here so people know which one they're getting into.
There you
So
go. I have to say we've kind of gone away with that for cloud stuff because you can't even see it if you're in the wrong Revit. So,
actually, you can. Did you know that? There is
oh no,
in your options,
is
now
there
I
a
gotta
creepy
remember where it
backdoor?
is. Is it the user interface? There is somewhere in here, and it might actually be an INI setting, that one of them, cloud model, show previous Revit
Oh,
versions in the new Revit home.
yeah, that's gonna be. Why would you want that?
That's been there for a while, actually.
I know, but why would you want?
I don't know. I love the fact that you can't see it and you can't see it. The reason I like to put the name on there is I often open it in the cloud first just to see what it is. So like for me, I
That's fair.
literally go in here because I'm like, I don't want to waste upgrading Revit to my opening Revit 22, 3, 4, 5, what project? So I literally go to people's folders here. It's quicker. Say, cool, I need to open up 24. So that's partially the reason why I do it. Also, if people are looking at it online, they can see that as well. People, well, I can't see. It's like, what's that number at the end? Say 25. Then you need to open up Revit 25.
But then you don't have to go rename all of your 50 files every time.
I can usually do it in about 15, 20 minutes. You
I
get
think
into a
it's sweet that
groove.
you do it. I would be
Rename,
like,
boom,
everybody
boom.
rename your file.
No, I usually do it for clients. So I upgrade their models and then I go through and rename them all. And I can usually do it. I mean, in the worst case, I had one project had 65 files and I still did it in less than an hour. So
Right. It's way too much time on his hands.
yeah, it's also a way that I can make sure they
Uh,
all upgraded too. But
oh, there you go. Rick says you can see them, but they're grayed out. All right, I guess that kind of makes sense, but it does seem.
cool. So what is Chris's
Okay.
question?
What is which now?
One of the questions that's actually in the question pod.
I know. All right. Let's see. Chris is asking or stating, I would like to be able to control visibility of some text built into families by view, something like filters or subcategories. Any tricks to do this? Can't make Anno families shared to filter them. Text doesn't have subcategories. I want to be able to do this for a lot of families and view specific, so the typical visibility parameter isn't what I need this time.
But I let you take this, Melissa, since you guys have the crap ton of this built into your families, or do you want me to cover it?
I want to hear your go because I didn't build it into ours. But
So the biggest thing on that is what you have to do is take a generic annotation family and nest that into another family. Personally, I would do it as a generic model. You make that generic model then shared, right? So it's a shared generic model. You're nesting whatever that annotation is into a text parameter of that generic model family, and you put something in that generic model family's name, like GA. So it's a generic model underscore GA for generic annotation. And then you could do another category in there, like for specialty equipment or whatever. It's like if you want to turn off that refrigerator or dishwasher, all those icons, you can't turn that off on a view specific level. So the way to do that is to nest a generic annotation into another family, make the other family shared, map the parameters to it. So you could, if you're changing it, then nest that into the family you want to look at it for, and therefore you could create a filter to turn off those generic model families that have a GA slash SQ or whatever you're looking for. So you can go through and do that triple nesting to get it to work. That's about the only way to do that. What I do, and I think I covered this in actually last month's one, is I personally go through and make my generic annotations that are nested in show up at a detail level. Because I know in my overall plans, I don't ever want to see the dishwasher. Maybe I only want to the DW command, right? Maybe I only want to see that in my enlarged plans or whatever. So for
You want
me,
to see
even
it
in
in your
those
roof
plans,
plan randomly though?
yeah, I don't want a
That's
random
my favorite.
DW, random REF, whatever. I also don't like REF for refrigerator because everybody's like refer to, and they use REF or refer to other drawings. They're like, what am I referring to? So I do RFR for refrigerator. But so yeah, that's what I do, and I use detail level because one thing that I don't see a lot of people take advantage of is in the visibility graphics of a view. Obviously, would also work in your view template. On the far right of your columns, you have what detail level am I looking for? So even though I might want my walls at a fine level or a coarse level detail or whatever, all the specialty equipment families that I've done dishwashers for or whatever else, I can come down and be like, cool, I want my specialty equipment to be displayed in a medium or coarse or whatever. But you can say ignore what the view is doing and just change this to be what I want it to be. Right. So in the views, I want to see it. I say, cool, only show this stuff only by course, and then leave everything else by the view categories or whatever it's going to do. That's the easier way to do it. Unfortunately, if you're like, no, I truly want to be able to turn one on and off for each individual family, then you've got to go through and say, cool, nest a generic annotation into a generic model, make the generic model shared, nest that into your final family, and then create filters. So can it be done? Yes. It's just, a more tedious than it should be process to get it to happen. Yeah, I really wish we could filter generic annotations or tags. I would love to be able to filter tags to change colors of tags, etc. So hopefully, Chris, that answers your question.
What makes you decide to never mind? One of the
Uh,
two.
Rick also said, how about changing the name of the version of the file in the project folder as opposed to the individual file names? I hadn't thought about that, Rick. Actually, not a bad idea.
Yeah.
One thing I will also say with
Yeah.
that, because you said file names, did you guys know that desktop connector under this beautiful folder path, so under your app data local Autodesk desktop connector logs folder, there is a txt file called startup long path. This will actually show you how many projects or how many files you have that are actually not within the 254 character limitation. So when you start coming down and looking at this, this will start to
Mhm.
tell you. So this was one of my first projects that's been upgraded for like 9 years. Do not name your projects something ridiculous like this, because more than likely desktop connector is going to blow up on you and or Revit because you have too long of a file path. So FYI, that does exist. Revit desktop connector does log this out every single time. If I were to delete this out, open up my machine tomorrow, I will have a new log file of what it is. So it updates it all the time, giving this to you. So yes, be careful on what you name things. Don't go through crazy blah, blah, blah folders. My projects now, none of them are like this. Like this would have just been this is actually an airport. This would have been the airport acronym, and that would have been it. I would not have had all of this inside of here. Also, if you guys are not into your ACC hub and you're thinking about it, also probably come up with a very short ACC hub name. One of the ACC hubs I'm in is like a 20 character ACC hub name, and it's like, oh my God, no. Like this one, I don't think we really needed all of that to be in there. It's not me, not my thing. Mine is BD Mackey Consulting, which is ridiculously long. Mine just should have said BDM, just because that also looks fun when you're looking at the acronym. Um, but yeah,
Now,
so
your ACC thing is what mine always defaults to, so thanks for that.
you're welcome.
Even after I've already opened files in a
Yes,
hub,
my
it
ACC,
defaults back to your hub, and I have to go back to the Parallax
mine
hub.
defaults to a client that I haven't worked with in like 6 years now. Their name is an A name, so I get it because they're the
Yeah,
first alphabetical hub I have. So I must be your first alphabetical name. You just need to work with an A
yeah. I need
company.
to find it.
So
I need to work with an A.
no, actually, because no, you because I have Autodesk hubs too, but the U is after the N. So no, that's all I got. Cool. All right. So what else we got? Chris says thank you.
Oh yeah, you just got to keep nesting, nesting the nested nesty nestings.
Okay. Chris says, I'll try that. I've only been nesting one level. The text gets hidden under my masking regions. Oh, I also personally don't ever use masking regions in families. My family, I just always show the live content. I don't believe in turning that stuff off to be even only visible in, um, not visible in the actual view. I want to cut through the live stuff. I don't want to have masking regions, but that's just a personal opinion.
I concur.
And what's our last thing from Rick?
Rick says, I like using print sheets from PyRevit so I can print in order all the sheets based on a sheet index. I've heard that the PDF exporter works better, cleaner, faster than Bluebeam PDF Writer. Thoughts?
Um, PyRevit does have that very useful tool, but yes, Autodesk did come out with the export to PDF command. Um, and when you do the export to PDF command, you can come in and use the same thing, visible portion, current window, select views on print sets. You can have an export set up. And then there is also a way, and I forget where, to go in and edit how they get printed. I'm not going to say one is better than the other. They're just different. I do know that I have had some clients who use the Ideate automation tool, and this is how it prints to PDF. And we've got some funky things happening that when you use this one with Ideate automation tools, it does some freaky things. So for them, it's kind of like cool. They open them up and print to PDF. The other thing I would say is, this is just using some sort of built-in PDF printer, so you don't even get to choose which one you're using. And I forget where it is. Where is the?
Isn't it just a little edit thing up on selected views and sheets?
Is it this one?
Edit print order down at the bottom.
In here or the previous
Yeah, it's
dialog?
just grayed out right now because you
Oh,
don't
because I don't
have
have a sheet selection. Oh yeah.
You got to pick some stuff before you
You
can
pick some
edit the
stuff.
order.
Yeah, then you get the edit print order here.
Yeah. So I
One of the
can't
big things for
remember
me is
exactly.
I see
Oh,
clients trying to go through and like print 500 sheets all at once. I do a series of print sets. Hey, here's all my A1 sheets. Here's all my A2 sheets. Here's all my A3 sheets. Because I don't want to get halfway through and have a print just fail because one of the sheets screwed up. Personally, for me, yeah, it does suck. I have to do it 3 or 4 times, but I create sheet sets for all of the different A1, A2, A3, whatever you're doing, and I print them that way. I find that would be much easier to do, but yeah, there you go.
yeah, I like that because then you can be looking through them to just see if anything printed oddly while
The only
it's.
downside of that is you're like trying to print at night and you're going to, I'm going to print before I go to sleep. That's the other thing. So, but you can also, create more than a sheet can belong in more than one print set. So,
Yeah. So there is one thing, and I can't remember exactly what it was doing, but Aaron ran into an issue with the PyRevit one where it actually adds characters or something kind of in the background in order to
yes.
force. And so that was messing something else up, but I cannot remember what that was. So just a warning that the PyRevit one could mess some other things up.
Yeah, the Pi Revit, I don't know if it's changed, but what it would
Yeah,
do
I
when
don't
you're doing the
remember.
print order, it adds hidden characters behind the scenes as you reorganize this stuff. And so I have seen people like use export the sheet list out and go through and do it. And it's like, oh, there's all these special characters. When exported, it's like Excel or something else. It's like, what is going on here? So yeah, it does do something a little bit crazy. What I have seen it not break is if you are just using a sheet index, I haven't seen it go through and add those special characters. It's more when you're like, no, I manually want to go through here and start going through and setting it. It's when it starts adding those special characters. I really love the fact that I can print off of a schedule here. This is the one that I really, really like.
Yeah, it makes
The other
so
thing I
much
would say is
sense.
Rick did say rather than using the Bluebeam version here, the one thing I will also say, oh, I didn't install on this computer yet, is there is a program out there called Qt PDF, Cute PDF. It is the most simplified PDF printer I've ever seen. It's a free download. Oftentimes, when people say my PDFs are failing, it's because Bluebeam tries to make everything way more intelligent than it needs to be. It tries to maintain the characters and the lines and all of this stuff. And sometimes when people are like, I'm having issues printing the Bluebeam, I'm like, cool, go use Qt PDF and it prints just fine. So if you are doing something here, or if it's taking too long, 90% of the reason is probably because you're using Bluebeam. Maybe try the Microsoft or go download Qt PDF and do it. And I had one client like, if I use Qt PDF, it's like a quarter of the time as the Bluebeam PDF because Bluebeam is trying to maintain all that intelligence.
They just need a stupid PDF. That would be a good one. Let's make one called Stupid PDF.
Stupid PDF.
Stupid PDF.
It's cute. PDF, cute PDF. It's so small and tiny, it doesn't do anything. It's very cute. There's no intelligence. Cool. And with that said,
He
that's
seems
all the
pretty smart,
questions.
Brian.
And we're at the top of the hour. I'm not going to
Wow.
go over today. Woo!
Oh, but Rick did mention that if you hover over the print sheet button, it will tell you about it. So that must be a thing that got
Oh,
added since last time we played with it. There you go. So at least it's not secret symbols anymore.
yeah.
There you
I'll
go.
just tell you. I don't know. It's probably always been there. I just don't have the patience to wait for the tooltip to come up.
So you'll right click on everything, but you won't wait to see what the tips are.
Yes, because right click I usually do when I'm on a meeting board.
Oh,
Um, all right. With that said, it's top of the hour. We are done. As you can all see, I've got meetings telling me I should be joining them right now. I appreciate everybody for being here. Great session. I'm glad everybody came. It was also nice to see a lot of new names. So please tell anybody you know in your office, in your community center. I don't know what you guys do and what kind of groups you're in. But let everybody know because we're just here trying to help the industry by answering questions and sharing our knowledge. So thanks everyone, and we will see you on April Fool's Day.